Oh, Dan, here we go again. I don't know why I let Frank talk me into this anymore. It's always the same thing. These college girls always want to go out on a first date as a double. They think that it will make them safer. What it means is that Frank needs someone to go with him on a blind date about once a month. Since a blind date is the only kind I can get, I get drafted to go with him. Frank is my best friend. And when girls aren't involved, he is a great guy. We can make music and develop plans for the future together with ease. The problem is that I am not very good looking and I have trouble talking to girls. While Frank is very handsome and has lines that could make a gigolo blush. Tonight was the same situation that happened most of the time. Frank was going out with the blonde goddess and I was with her brown-haired roommate. The poor girl wasn't unattractive, but she was overwhelmed by her friend. My problem was that my date could not take her eyes off of Frank. I couldn't even get her to go out on the dance floor unless Frank was out there as well. Unfortunately, Frank had conned me into driving, and I could not leave before he and Blondie were ready to go. One thing was certain. I was not going to get caught going parking with them again. I had done that once and had trouble sleeping for weeks afterward. What hurt the most was that I had had a crush on the girl for months and had to listen to my best friend take her. I was not going to do that again. On the plus side, I didn't know these two. Hell, I wasn't even sure of their names after being with them for over 3 hours. Finally, Blondie said that they needed to get back to the dorm before curfew. They were both freshmen and had to be back in the dorm before 1 a.m. Brown hair, and I sat in the car in front of their dorm as Frank kissed her roommate goodbye. You know, all you have to do is wait a week or two, and he'll ask you out. Frank never dates a girl for more than 2 weeks. I'll let him know that you're interested. Do you really think that he would go out with me? Frank will date anything in a skirt, miss. All you have to do is to be patient. Frank was finally done feeling her friend up. So I let her out of the car as he walked back. I didn't think anything more about the girls. Blondie would go out with him on her own now, and I would not be needed. I forgot about them, until I was reminded. That is, Saturday morning. I was heading out of my apartment to go running. I alternated running, lifting weights and swimming to keep in shape. On this morning, a little over a week from the date with Blondie and her friend, I stepped out of the door to be confronted by Blondie. Why didn't you warn me? Why did you just sit there and not say anything? If you were referring to how Frank treats women, then you would not have believed me. Why haven't any of your sorority sisters said anything to you? Frank has been going through your dorm floor by floor. I figured you knew all about him by now. Well, no one ever told me. And now I have to watch him do it to my friend too. She is head over heels about him, and nothing I say will help. Yeah, I know. I've seen it more times than I can count. Every girl thinks that she can change him. She has something that no one else has and can hold on to him. They are all wrong. I'm not sure that Frank even likes girls. I think he just uses them. But he is your friend. Haven't you ever said anything to him? Not my problem, sweetie. It's not as if he is taking girls away from me. After all, Frank, you even care about how much pain he is causing. He isn't causing any pain. You do that to yourselves. Frank doesn't lie or promise anything. I heard him tell you that he was not looking for a long-term commitment. And you ignored it. You beautiful girls take it the worst. You get a little of your own medicine and can't believe it could happen to you. Now, if you don't mind, I need to run today. I took off running and left her standing there with her mouth open. When I got back 5 miles later, she was gone. I still didn't know her name. That afternoon I was cleaning out my car. A 1969 Dodge Dart Swinger 340. I had gotten it when a cousin had not come back from Enoma. My aunt did not want the memories around, so she sold it to me at a good price. The car was lime green with a vinyl roof and a rally stripe across the trunk. It was a fun and cheap rocket. I was leaning into the trunk rearranging my tools when I heard a pleasant voice behind me inquire, "Do you really think that I am beautiful?" Startled, I banged my head on the trunk trying to stand up and turn around at the same time. Ow. Damn. That hurt. What the hell do you want from me? Of course you are beautiful, but you don't need me to tell you that. You know what you look like. You've played men your whole life based upon your appearance. You just don't know how to act when someone doesn't fall at your feet. Get used to it, Blondie. There are a lot of beautiful women out there, and this is going to happen once in a while. Some guys are not affected by your looks and will not bow and scrape to you. Now I say again, what do you want from me? Are you going to keep trying to make me feel guilty for my friend's actions? No, you are right. It is not your problem. Though I don't know how you can remain friends with him the way he treats you. I sighed. I don't know that I will for much longer. Frank thinks that he is doing me a favor, and that maybe one of these girls will like me. He doesn't realize that when we are together it just emphasizes how homely I am. He thinks that all I need to do is to have a little confidence and I will get my own dates. But then he has never had to deal with rejection. I bet you never have either. Hub Blondie. No, I haven't, and I must admit that it is not a very pleasant feeling. You are not homely, Alan. I would say that plain is a better description of your looks, but that could be changed with a little work. I heard Frank say that you were a freshman like me, but I know that he is a junior. How are you two friends? I did a tour for Uncle and Frank didn't. We were friends all through high school and played in a couple of bands together. He is about the only guy I knew back then who was still in town, so we hooked up when I got back. I need to get ready for work, so unless you have something else you want to say, goodbye. Wait, would you give me a ride back to the dorm? I had a friend drop me off here without even thinking of how to get back. What in the hell was going on here? Either this girl was as ditzy as a basketball, or she had an ulterior motive. I just didn't know what that could be. Yes, I'll give you a lift. But I have to get ready first. I work at Imperial Eats on the levee, and I can drop you on the way. Would you like to come in while I change or stay here with the car? She got a very satisfied expression. Okay, now I understood a little bit better. She was manipulating me and thought that she was back in control. Should I shock her or play along to see what she had in mind? She didn't say anything, just smiled and pointed at the building. I let her in, and at my apartment I waved her in through the door. You know, if you're going to keep popping up here, I ought to know your name. I am sure Frank introduced you, but I wasn't paying much attention as I didn't expect to see you again. Okay, that explains why you kept calling me Blondie. I wondered why you were being so rude. My name is Jennifer Douglas. I know that your first name is Alan, but Frank didn't mention your last name. Whitaker, Alan Whitaker. May I get you something to drink? I have Coke and Old Milwaukee. Take your choice. Jennifer sat down on my wood-framed couch. Coke will be fine. This is really a very nice place. Not what I would expect from a college freshman. I handed her a Coke. Thank you. Now I really have to get ready for work. You can watch TV if you want to or listen to some music. I shouldn't be too long. As I was stripping down in the bedroom, I heard the stereo break out with Question by the Moody Blues. And that was it, a question. What the hell did this girl want? 3 songs later, I was refreshed and dressed in my brown shirt and pants. It was just another uniform, like so many others I had worn. All right, Jennifer, shall we go? She had already been in my car before, although it was the back seat last time. But she gushed over the power rumbling through the floorboards. I could see the calculating look in her eyes, though. She was trying to work me. As I pulled up at her dorm, I asked her, "Am I going to be running into you again?" "You could be seeing a bit more of me, Alan. Thank you for the ride." Work was the normal Saturday night in a college town. We sold pizza and beer, and the place was jumping. I spent a lot of my time in back preparing more supplies for the pizza line. The business during the day had been unusually brisk, and the prepared items were low. At about 11:30, I was back out at the counter taking orders when Jennifer came up. I had to put a stop to this. I pointed to the end of the counter out of the way and met her over there. "Look here, Jennifer, this has got to stop. As a matter of pride, I do not go out with Frank's cast-offs. I know that you are feeling hurt and need to be wanted again, but you are barking up the wrong tree. I apologize if I have you wrong, but please quit following me. Unlike my friend, I am looking for a long-term commitment, and it will not be with anyone who looks like you. The betrayal in her eyes would haunt me for a while, but I had seen worse. My dreams were already pretty gruesome places. This wouldn't make much of a dent on them. My fun in the Far East for Uncle Sugar still dominated most of my nightmares. I thought that you said I was beautiful. The pain was strong in her voice. Yes, you are, and that is the problem. You have already shown yourself to be vain and shallow. Beautiful women have way too many temptations to cheat, and most do. I need someone who wants to have a stable home and take care of our children without my having to wonder where she is. You would be way too much trouble. There would always be guys flirting with you and trying to take you away from me. And at some point, you would go. I don't need that kind of country western song life. If you still need confirmation of your appeal, go bat your eyes at Bill over there on the register. He'll be glad to take you out. Now I have work to do. Goodbye. So much for the idea of playing along. I left her crying with her head in her hands and went back into the back of the store. She was gone when I came back out. I wonder if she took my advice and approached Bill. He didn't say anything. So I guess not. The manager's wife, Marsha, cornered me during cleanup. I heard what you said to that poor girl, Alan. You were very cruel to her. And you need to know that not all women are like that. How did someone so young get so disillusioned? The number of Dear John letters that arrived in country was amazing. Every one of the guys who got them had been showing pictures of cheerleaders and models. The guys with plain little homemakers were safe. That is how I got so cynical. This girl has been stalking me all day, and I had to put a stop to it. Being nice didn't do any good, so I had to get rude. I hope that it worked, because I don't need to have anything to do with a girl like her. All these prom queens are too spoiled to make a good wife. I need someone much more basic. All she is trying to do is to take revenge on my friend by dating, then dumping me. She has no actual interest in a lump like me. You are wrong, Alan, but I can't see that you're unlikely to change your mind. Please don't be too harsh with her if she persists. I'll try to watch out for her and keep her away when you are working. That is the best that I can do. Thanks, Marsha. Too bad you don't have a sister my age. I could be very interested in her. Marsha laughed and left me to finish cleaning. Sunday afternoon I was popping popcorn, waiting for Frank to come over and watch football with me. My TV was bigger than his, and his mother would not let him keep enough beer in the house to make it all the way through 2 games. I had a case of Old Milwaukee in the fridge just waiting for him. The doorbell chimed, so I hollered for him to come on in. The door opened slowly, and I glanced over, only to see Jennifer timidly enter the room. Oh, Dan, what am I going to have to do to get rid of this girl? Jennifer, what in the hell are you doing here? I thought that I made it plain to you that I did not want to see you anymore. You should have taken my advice and asked Bill out. He would have been thrilled. As I was saying this, Frank walked in through the still open door and looked at Jennifer in amazement. He probably thought that she was here to try and get him to take her back. I almost wished that he would. He then proceeded to say almost the same thing I had. Jennifer, what are you doing here? The blonde looked at Frank, and then at me, and it was obvious that she was a heartbeat away from tears. Ever since you dumped her, she has been stalking me, Frank. What the hell am I supposed to do to get rid of her? He looked at me with amazement then. Why would you want to? No more dates than you go on. I would think that you would welcome the chance to be with a girl like Jennifer. I can get my own damn girl, Frank. I don't need your leftovers. The fact that she has been with you is enough to make sure that I never want to touch her. I just can't make her understand that. She thinks that she can manipulate me like she has all the other men in her life, until she met you. Now she needs to treat me like shit to show that she still can. I don't need this, and I'm not going to put up with it. I was very angry by this point. I had pretty much decided that I was done hanging out with Frank. My conscience would not allow me to overlook his actions anymore. I had been alone for a long time. I could stand it for a while longer. Most people that said they were my friends were just to drain on my time anyway. I could put more effort into my studies if I didn't have to take time with them. Jennifer was standing there looking at me and openly bawling. That was pretty harsh, Alan. I didn't know that it bothered you so much. Why haven't you ever said anything before? What good would that have done? You have been the same since I met you 6 years ago. I've ignored it for the most part, but after a while it starts to get to me. I think that you had better watch TV at home from now on. We had both been ignoring Jennifer during our discussion. She had been crying and looking back and forth between us as we talked. She finally spoke up. Alan, I came by to tell you that you had it wrong. I was interested in you, but it had nothing to do with how Frank treated me. I was how you had treated me like a gentleman up until last night. And today, you had treated me very nice, and I liked it. I wanted to see more of you and be friends. Yeah, I know friend, but not boyfriend. I've heard it about a dozen times before, and it doesn't hurt any less now than it did then. I don't need your pity any more than I do Frank's. Now would you both please leave? I have some schoolwork to get done. Come on, Jennifer. I think that we have exposed some very raw nerves. Alan isn't responsible for what he is saying now, and we need to leave. I'll try to talk to him after he calms down. As he was saying this, Frank was leading a very stunned Jennifer back out the door. Damn you. I told you that I don't need your goddamn pity. I survived a damn war. I can survive without you. I was yelling at the top of my lungs by this time. I slammed the door behind them and shot the bolt home. I then leaned against the door and cried. I never cried. But that is what happened. Of course, I didn't get any schoolwork done. After a while, I put on shorts and a sweatshirt and went for a run. I don't know how far I ran, but I suddenly realized that it was getting dark, and I had no idea where I was. I was lucky that instincts had taken over when I started out because I had buckled on my fanny pack with my apartment keys and my wallet. I remembered seeing a small shopping plaza a few blocks before I had stopped. I went back there, and there was a restaurant with a payphone. I got changed in my location from a waitress and called a cab. In later years, it would be learned that what I had just gone through had a name: post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD. Not much was known about it now, but whole books would be written about it in the future. Right now, I was embarrassed by my actions, and I had no idea how to correct them. There was no way to apologize for my words. I had hurt 2 people with no excuse. When I got back into my apartment, my phone was ringing. I was afraid that it would be Frank, and I had no idea what to say to him. But it could be Mom, and she would be worried if I did not answer. Hello, Alan asked my father. Are you all right? Your mother just talked to Frank, and she is worried about you. Why don't you come on over to the house for dinner, and we'll talk a bit? Okay, Dad. I guess that would be a good idea. I'll see you in a little while. Good, Alan. Now you drive carefully. Frank, try to get rid of any anger with that hot rod you drive. It's okay, Dad. I'm not mad anymore. I'll see you soon. This was probably a good idea, as I had said. My folks were good, solid people, and if anyone could help me with this, it would be them. They lived in the northern part of town, just across the river. I could have lived with them, but after my stint in the army, I was used to having a lot more freedom than that would have afforded me. With the GI Bill and my job, I was doing okay financially and saw no reason to go back home. I got a quick shower and drove over to my parents' house. Mom met me at the back door and gave me a big hug. I hugged her back, then picked her up and carried her into the kitchen, where I set her back on her feet next to her chair. Alan, you'll hurt yourself doing that. Mom, I lift more than that when I am unloading bags of flour at the pizza shop. Hi, Dad. I'm glad you called. I need to talk to someone. I need some help. The chili is in the crock pot. Alan, go ahead and get a bowl, and we'll talk while we eat. Would you like a cup of coffee? Sure, Dad. That sounds good. I gathered a bowl of chili and sat at the table. I dithered for a bit, trying to get my thoughts in order. Your friend called Alan. He was concerned for you. Frank says that he has never seen you angry like that before, and he is not sure what he did to cause it. He also says that the young lady is beside herself with grief and pain. He says that you hurt her a lot. What is going on, son? What is bothering you? My mom asked. My folks were not demonstrative in their affections, not to each other and not to me. But I never for 1 second doubted that they loved me and wanted the best for me. I could see the worry in their eyes, and I was still not sure how to respond. I'm not sure what it is, Mom. It has been building up for a long time, ever since I got back, and it just exploded today. I get so frustrated by how I am treated by girls my age. They all act as if I am their brother or something, yet they fall all over Frank. They all say that they want a nice guy, then go for the bad one every time. You've told me before that I just have to be patient, but it is getting old. Frank thinks that he is helping me, but he just makes me more frustrated. Now this girl is throwing herself at me, and I can't trust it. I know that if I let her get to me, she'll just dump me later. For some reason it all came to a head today, and I exploded. I know that I hurt them both, but I couldn't help myself. I suddenly felt so much pain and betrayal that I couldn't stand it. And I let it out at them. I would apologize, but there is nothing I could say that would help. The bad part is that I can't say that it won't happen again. I feel like a spring under pressure, and I am likely to explode at any time. The best thing would be for them to stay away from me. I'm simply not stable. Could this have anything to do with your experiences overseas? I don't know, Dad. That was hell. And I try my best to not think about it. At least when I am awake. Do you mean that you are still having nightmares? Well, yeah. Maybe not as often as I did right after I got home, but I still have them. I think that we need to get in touch with VA. And have you talked to someone about this, son? You should not be having problems like that at this late date. There is definitely something wrong. Okay, but can you talk to Frank for me and try to explain? I don't know what to say to him, and there is no way that I can talk to Jennifer. She must hate me now, which is probably a good thing. If you just say to him what you did to us, he'll understand. I'm sure that he will forgive you. Frank has been your friend for a long time. I'm not sure that I want him to, Mom. I can no longer ignore his actions, and I doubt that I can convince him to change. I think I would be better off without any friends. If there is no one around me, then I can't hurt anyone else. That's no way to live, son. A man needs to share his life with people, or it has no meaning. You need to make more friends, not less. I just shook my head and started to eat the meal that I had let get cold. Even cold, my dad's chili was good eating. I stayed in my old room that night. It was somehow comforting, and I slept better than I had for weeks. I had to get up early so I would have time to stop by my apartment and pick up my books and such for class. That day and the next two I went through in a daze. I had no idea what went on in class, and I was at work going through the motions. Marsha was spending a lot of time with me at work, but not talking much. I just did what I had to, and nothing more. Wednesday, I was to be off work, and got home from classes not knowing what I was going to do. When I got to my door, I just stopped and stared. Jennifer was sitting on the floor with her back against my door. Please don't get upset, Alan. I really need to talk to you. Marsha told me that you were off tonight, and this was all that I could think of to do. Jennifer looked like she had not had a very good few days either. She looked so forlorn sitting there staring up at me. I shrugged and held my hand down for her. She took it, and a shock passed through me. This was the first time that we had actually touched. I lifted her up beside me and unlocked the door. I let her in and pulled out a seat at the kitchen table, then proceeded to make coffee. I didn't know what to do. Why was she here? How could I make up for what I had done? Will you listen to me now, Ellen? I don't seem to have much choice here. I'd say that I'm sorry about what I said to you, but that is pretty inadequate. I don't know what set me off, but you didn't deserve what I said. Thank you for that, Alan, but I deserve some of it. Frank told me some of your history, and I can understand why you were so leery of me. Did girls actually go out with you to get you to introduce them to him? I can't believe how much that had to hurt. Yes, they did, and yes, it did. But that was a long time ago. It had nothing to do with you. You said that you had survived a war, and I asked Frank about it. He told me about some of the things you hinted at from Vietnam. He said that you would never talk about it directly, but what you did say made him very glad that he was not there. I try not to say anything about that period of my life. My folks think I need to talk to someone about it, though, and are going to get in touch with the Veterans Administration to get me some help. I was a medic flying medevac, and we flew into a lot of hot zones. I saw a lot of things I really don't want to remember. You don't need to be around someone as unstable as I am. I'll be the one to decide that. Not you. You fascinate me, and I want to get to know you better. I have never met a man who could make me forget everything like you do. I know that I have been self-absorbed in vain. I want you to help me be a better person. That's a hell of a load to place on a guy. I showed the other day that I'm not a very good person. How can I help you? By not letting me get away with my shit. Every time I start acting like a prom queen, I want you to shut me down. We already know that you aren't affected by my looks, and I need that. Whoa, there, Missy. I never said that your beauty didn't get to me. Just that since there was no way you would want me, I could ignore it. I'll give it a try. But what happens now? Well, to start with, we go on dates. We will take it slow and see just how much we have in common. I think that there will be a lot more than you believe. For right now, do you have enough supplies for me to cook dinner for you? There should be. I try to keep enough here for a good meal. My folks taught me quite a bit about cooking wholesome food, and I have usually eaten pretty well. Great, Alan. Your parents sound nice, and I want to meet them soon. If you're willing to on a holiday break, maybe you can go to Ohio with me and meet my parents. Let's not put the cart before the horse, Jennifer. If we are together, I'll be glad to meet them. Does this statement by you that we are to date mean that we will be exclusive? I mean, you won't be dating anyone else. No, Alan, I won't be dating anyone else. Would you be willing to go steady with me? The relief was probably evident in my expression as she giggled. I had not heard her do this before, and I felt it all the way through my being. It's not as if I have a lot of other options. I'll gladly play along until you realize your mistake. No more of that self-defeating attitude here, Buster. I don't think it is a mistake. Now let me do some cooking. I had some hamburger in the fridge and spaghetti noodles and sauce in the pantry. While I prepared the noodles, Jennifer fried the hamburger, drained it, and added the sauce. She went nuts in my spice cabinet and added several things to the sauce that I didn't recognize. I surreptitiously stole a taste and was astounded by what she had done to plain, basic sauce. She also had me fine chop an onion and toast some bread. She made a garlic butter to spread on the bread, and I pulled out a bottle of red wine to go with the meal. A small salad of lettuce, carrots, tomatoes, and celery finished off the dining experience. I was amazed that we worked together so smoothly. Everything seemed to be flourished into a whole. When we had everything assembled and on the table, I pulled out a chair for Jennifer, seated her, and poured a glass of wine. I raised my glass toward hers, a toast, pretty lady, to serendipity, and to possibly finding joy on the rebound. Jennifer and I had a nice dinner that we had worked together to make. That is, it was nice until I brought out my after-meal requirements. Her eyebrows rose a bit at the 3 pill bottles, but when I grabbed the bottle of Southern Comfort to take them, was she almost freaked. Alan, what the hell are you doing? Frank didn't say anything about you being an alcoholic. I'm not Jennifer. Did Frank tell you that I was injured in Vietnam? He said something about that, but not how bad it was. I sat down and took a deep breath. Then I guessed that it is time for a little more truth and discovery here. The last time I flew into a hot zone for dust out, it was still hot, very hot. I was injured, and when I woke up in a hospital bed, I found out just how lucky I was to be alive. The pilot, one patient, and I were the only ones still living on the helicopter when it got to the MASH unit. If we had gotten there any later, I wouldn't have made it either. While I was telling her my tale of woe, I was at the same time drinking most of the pint of comfort and taking my pills during pauses. Jennifer's expression was wavering between horror and pity. Oh my God. How bad was it? I lost my stomach and about 10 feet of intestine, as well as one of my kidneys. Do you want to see the wounds? I don't know. Are they bad? That depends on how squeamish you are. They look like ugly belly buttons. The scar tissue is getting better. I have a salve that needs to be applied daily. Do you mind if I look at it? If I minded, I wouldn't have asked Jennifer. I stood up and raised my shirt. Jennifer gasped when she got a look at the 3 puckered scars in my abdomen. She tentatively reached toward one and asked, "Do they hurt?" Not anymore. The one on my left leg still twinges once in a while, but these don't hurt now. What they do, though, is to make it so that I need a lot of help in order to digest food. I have to take these pills and have alcohol with every meal. These things make the plastic stomach I now have work for me. I also have to take a large number of vitamin and mineral supplements to replace things that my system cannot recover from food. But don't you spend a lot of the time drunk? No, alcohol doesn't really affect me now. Most of the absorption is done in the stomach, so it takes me a lot of booze to get drunk. In fact, I don't know that I can get drunk. I haven't actually tried. My biggest problem was that I wasn't 21 until this summer. My dad had to buy my booze till then. So you can get me drunk whenever you want to. No, I can't. I will give you a glass of wine or beer with dinner that is only civilized after all, but I will not contribute to the delinquency of a minor. If I get caught at that, I would be in a lot of trouble. Oh, I thought that you might let me and my friends have a little fun. Okay, princess, this is our first prom queen moment. I will not be the booze connection for you and your friends. I have no wish to go to jail so your friends can get drunk. Oh, I didn't think of that. What do you do when you eat out? I either set it up with the manager beforehand, or I drink in the parking lot after the meal. I have a card with permission to carry an open bottle of alcohol in my car. Otherwise, I could be arrested for having it. They know all about me at work, and no one says anything when they see me drinking. Yeah, I guess it would kind of shock people for you to just pull out a flask and knock back in a restaurant. I'm sorry for being so selfish, Alan. That's okay. Just remember that I'm going to call you on it when you get too self-absorbed. Now that you have heard some of my history, how about you tell some of yours? Who is Jennifer Douglas? Well, I am from Dayton, Ohio, and I have a sister who is a year and a half older than me. Actually, she is my half-sister. Her father is different than mine. We never heard much about him, but I think that he left when he found out that Mom was pregnant. My dad married my mom right after Sarah was born. He is great. I was a cheerleader in high school, but I couldn't make the team here. There were too many seniors on the squad to let more than a couple of freshmen on it. I'm a liberal arts major, and so far I'm carrying a 3.0. My boyfriend in high school went to Ohio State. He is playing football on the second string team this year and hopes to be first string next year. Jennifer sat back, seemingly pleased with herself. She didn't realize that she had told me more about the people around her than she had about herself. That she knew what was going on with her former boyfriend was also very telling. It was also interesting that she had mentioned her dad as being great, but her mom got short shrift. Would you like to go to a movie, Jennifer? Sure, Alan. Let me go back to the dorm and change. You can pick me up in about 45 minutes. Do you need me to take you there? No, I drove over here today. I wasn't too sure what kind of reception I was going to get, or if you would be willing to take me back. I don't drive very often because my car isn't too reliable. Dad says that he has a replacement for me when I come home for Christmas. What kind of car is it? It's a 1966 Ford Falcon. Daddy got a deal on it, and I thought that it was cute when I got it. But now, I will be glad to just get rid of it. Well, we'll try to let it stay at the dorm as much as possible. Maybe I can take it over to my dad's one weekend soon. He and I can see what we can do for it. I thought of something about then. If we were truly going steady, I should give her something to display that fact with. Wait here a moment, Jennifer. I need to get something. Okay, I went into my bedroom trying to decide what to get. I didn't have a letter jacket as I had not been on any teams. The only 2 rings I owned were my Army ring and my Jefferson High School ring. That would work, but it was much too big for her to wear. Wait a minute, there was a nice gold chain that I had found under a table at work one night. Jennifer would never know where it came from. I walked back out and asked her to close her eyes. I looped the necklace through the ring and placed it over her head and around her neck. Okay, open your eyes. Will this be enough to declare that you are going steady? Oh, Alan, I love it. The other girls are going to be so jealous. Jennifer held the ring up to look at it, and then pulled my head down for a kiss. Our first kiss was nice. No bells and whistles, but nice. I could smell her hair and perfume, and it was more intoxicating than the Southern comfort had been. My hands moved up and down her back, and hers were locked around my neck. After a moment, Jennifer stepped back. Mom, that is nice, and you taste of the drink you had. Very sweet. Now I need to go if we are going to make a show before curfew. We'll do that again before the night is out. I guarantee it. This having a girlfriend could definitely have its advantages. Butterflies Are Free was on at the theater. All I could think of during the movie was that the cute guy got the beautiful woman, even when he was blind. The movie let out just after midnight, and I took Jennifer back to her dorm. She was right about more kissing. The windows in the Dart were getting steamed up when she said that she needed to go in. I walked her to the door and gave her a peck on the cheek goodnight. This set the tone of our dating. I knew what I was going to be doing on Wednesday and Sunday nights from then on. We talked on the phone every day at least once. I had been overly optimistic about my trip to the VA hospital. The appointment was only to do the paperwork. I would not see a doctor for another month. On the second Saturday, we were dating. I had her follow me to my folks' house. Dad knew we were coming and had the garage empty. I pulled the Falcon into the garage. I didn't want to take the chance that she would scrape the narrow entry. I took her in and introduced her to my parents as my girlfriend. I then took my life in my hands and left her with Mom, while Dad and I went out to see what we could do with her car. As soon as we opened the hood, part of the problem became apparent. The fan belt was worn to the point of near failure. Further investigation revealed that the oil was almost solid and the plug wires were cracked. We put a voltmeter on the battery and it showed good. But after we started the engine, the alternator did not. Dad called my cousin Danny, who worked at an auto supply store, and told him what we needed. He would bring the parts over to us. Dad backed the car up, and then after I placed the ramps, ran it up on them. While he pulled the belt and alternator, I drained the oil and popped the filter off. We then pulled the plugs, points, and wires from the electrical system, and while we were at it, took out the air filter. When everything was back in, this car should run much better and be a lot more dependable. Danny showed up before we were done with the removals, and it only took another hour before we were done. When I backed it out, it sounded pretty nice. Nothing like what I drove in. I told Dad that I would bring it back in a few weeks for brakes. They were a little spongy. When we stepped into the kitchen, the women were working at the stove. Jennifer looked up at me, smiled. "You guys get cleaned up. Lunch will be ready in a few minutes. Your mom showed me a new way to do pork chops and I can't wait to try them. Were you able to do anything for my car?" "Sure did, Jennifer. You were about to be stuck on the side of the road. But you'll be okay now. It runs a lot better." Jennifer was right about the chops. I had had them this way before, and they were good. After dinner, I thanked Dad and Mom and Jennifer, and I left. When we got to my place so that I could get ready for work, Jennifer was enthusiastic in her praise for the work done on the car. She said that it had never run that good. Our plans for the evening had been worked out on the phone the night before. This had been her second prom queen moment. There was a home game tonight, and she wanted me to take her. I would have been glad to, but I had to work. She had started to pitch a fit until I told her, "Princess, how much good would it do for me to lose my job just to take you to the game? Go with your friends and come into the shop afterwards. I'll treat you all to a veggie deep dish. You can introduce me to some of your friends then. I am sorry, but I need the job to pay for my apartment and gas. Mom and Dad can't afford to help me out like your parents do." When I called her princess, she realized what she had been about to do and capitulated. I wondered how long this would last. At some point, she was likely to tell me to screw off and die. When she did, I'm pretty sure that we would be done. If we lasted that long, the trip to meet her family over the holidays would tell the tale of our romance. The Sunday morning after the game, I was awakened by the doorbell. I looked at the clock, 7:30. What the hell? I didn't think that it would be Jennifer. She had told me at the shop last night how sorry she was, and her friends had all been friendly with me when I bought them a pizza. I thought that it might be Frank. He was going to come over for the game today. We had made up. That is, he had accepted my apology. I still didn't want to be close to him anymore, but he had been a good friend for a long time, and I couldn't justify hurting his feelings again. I was surprised to see Jennifer at the door. "Well, hello, sweets. To what do I owe this honor? Let me and Alan. I have some making up to do." "Oh, did you do something wrong, Jennifer?" "Yes, Alan. I tried to force you into doing what I wanted without thinking of how it would affect you. I was wrong, and I need to make it up to you." "No, you don't, Jennifer. I understand, and I'm okay with it. Well, there is another reason. I'm excited, and while you have been a perfect gentleman with me, I need some loving. I don't know that I'm ready to go all the way with you, but I would love to see what you can do with your hands." The way she was talking, it was as if she expected me to object. Silly girl. I didn't even speak. I just took her hand and closed the door. I led her to my bedroom and took her in my arms. I had thrown on a t-shirt and shorts when I got up, and Jennifer's hand snaked up under the shirt as I held her. "Wait here a moment, honey. I need to rinse out my mouth before we kiss." "You woke me up." "Okay, Alan, but don't take too long." Like I was going to stay away 1 second longer than I had to. When I stepped back out of the bathroom, Jennifer was sitting on my bed, wearing a pair of pink panties and nothing else. Her body that were not excited. I guess she was a little nervous. I reached down and pulled my shirt off. I couldn't be dressed more than her. She flinched a bit as my scars were exposed, but then she looked down in my shorts and smiled. "You are beyond beautiful, Jennifer. I want to spend the day exploring every nook and cranny of that marvelous body." I moved to the bed, and Jennifer got an apprehensive look on her face. "Relax, dear. You told me your limits, and I won't push them. Even if you change your mind in the heat of passion. I know that you have heard this before from boys, but trust me, I will not hurt you. The difference is that I am not a boy. I am in no hurry here. I just want to please you. So relax and enjoy." I lay her back on the bed and kissed her. I then proceeded to kiss, lick, and rub every inch on her porcelain skin that I could reach. Jennifer may have intended to give me a present for being patient with her, but she was the one getting a reward today. I was happy as well, of course. The chance to see and feel her body. When I thought that she had gone as far as she could today, I moved up beside her and held her trembling body against mine. She soon stopped trembling and her breathing smoothed out. Her free hand began exploring my side and chest. "This was supposed to be a reward to you for putting up with my prom queen moments. Instead, I get the reward from you. Trust me, Jennifer, I feel rewarded. That wasn't the first time for you to have done that, was it?" "No, it wasn't, but it was amazing. You're delightful, and I'd be happy to show my appreciation for you anytime. I truly enjoy it, but I thought that you had trouble getting dates." Yes, I did. But lady who cleaned our hooch taught me a lot about pleasing a woman. Now, it is time to move back to the mundane world. Would you like to go swimming with me? I need to get in some exercise today, and swimming is on my schedule. That sounds like fun, Alan. Do we need to go to the field house? No, one of the reasons I chose this apartment complex was because it has an enclosed and heated pool. Go to the dorm and get your suit, and we can swim for a couple of hours. In fact, why don't you pick up a selection of clothes to keep over here? There will be many times that it would be inconvenient for you to have to go back to the dorm to change clothes. I'm not suggesting that you move in with me. That would be pushing things a bit fast, and the school won't let you while you were a freshman. What I mean is that having some clothes over here would be helpful. Okay. Yes, Alan, that sounds like a good idea. Give me a little while. Would it be okay if my roommate comes over to swim as well? She says that Frank has plans today, and she is lonely. Sure, bring Laura along. I hope that she is not upset that Frank's plans are to watch the game over here. I was going to tell you about it, but I didn't have the chance to last night. He came into Romans last night, and we talked a bit. We decided to go back to our old habits, except that most of my time would be with you. I hope that is okay with you. Will you be uncomfortable around Frank? No, I don't think so. Do you think that he is about to dump Laura, though? I would hate to bring her over here for that. Even if he is, I'll make sure that it doesn't happen today. Go get your stuff and your friend. I'll clean up and get ready for you. I'd say that I would clear space for you in my closet, but it is mostly clear space anyway. I leaned over and gave her a nice kiss. I need to wash my face, so I'll let you get dressed. I got up and went into the bathroom to do as I had said. When I came out, Jennifer was dressed, and she gave me a smack on the lips before leaving. I changed the bed and cleaned up the dirty clothes and such, then made coffee and waited for the girls to come over. After Jennifer stowed her emergency stash in my closet, we had a surprisingly good time swimming. I found Laura to be a pleasant and intelligent girl. We were eating lunch when Frank showed up with the beer, and he seemed to be pleased that Laura was there. A brief discussion when the girls were in the kitchen disclosed that he was in no hurry to move on from Laura. He said that she was not clingy like other girls, and that he had fun with her. I didn't want to tell him that it was probably because she was the first girl smart enough to figure out how to hold on to him. It would do him good to settle down for a little while at least, and now we could go on an actual double date, one in which I was as likely to get lucky as he was. That would indeed be a change. When the girls came back, and I suggested that very thing, and they were enthusiastic about it, we went roller skating that evening, and double dated at least once a month from then on. It was a lot of fun. One memorable date was on Halloween. I was a zombie. The rags and makeup said so. I was standing in the shadows of the spook room of the church in Lebanon. When my girlfriend sits up in the coffin and screams, the kids jump towards me. I then shuffle through the sticks and leaves we had covering the floor, raise my arms and groan. That would send them on to my buddy Frank, the ghoul with the chainsaw. The debris we had covered the floor with came from the wooded area next to the church, and provided an atmosphere of this room being a cemetery or other such place. Small fans swirling the air and minimal lighting completed the illusion. Looking over at my girlfriend, Jennifer Douglas, I couldn't help but think back to last night. Part of my problem was that Jennifer was my first real girlfriend, and I was trying to be careful with her feelings. I had gone on dates in high school and done some making out just like everybody else, but there had not been one girl that had grabbed my interest like Jennifer had. I do mean grabbed too. She had refused to take a no until I paid attention to her. I'm still not sure what her attraction to me is, but I'm not going to fight it anymore. I'll just enjoy myself. It had been late on Friday night when we got to my apartment. We had spent most of that day setting up the spook room and then driving back to Lafayette. Jennifer and her friend Laura had cleared it with their dorm mother to be out for a couple of nights. They were supposed to be staying with Laura's parents in Lebanon, but I'm pretty sure that my place was in the plans all along. Laura and my buddy Frank were going to be on the hide-a-bed, and Jennifer was going to be with me in the bedroom. As we got ready for bed, I expected this to be the same as our previous makeout sessions. Neither one of us was a virgin. My only previous experience was with Hai, the woman who took care of our rooms in Vietnam. We paid her well to keep our quarters clean, and as a matter of course, she took turns sleeping with the four of us. I had become quite fond of her before I left country. The first time this night was fairly quick, as could be expected. Okay, enough daydreaming. Time to move back to my position for the next batch of kids. I had to brush the leaves and sticks back into place, so they would make noise when I shuffled forward. I leaned down into the coffin on my way past to give Jennifer a quick kiss. The four of us were students at Purdue University in West Lafayette, and we were helping out here because Laura had asked us, and we had volunteered. It was something different to do and helped others as well. Laura was from Lebanon, and a few years ago, her parents' church had begun offering an alternative Halloween night for their members and neighbors. Most of the kids coming through our spook room were teenagers old enough to not feel right trick or treating with the little kids, and without this alternative, they would probably be out getting into trouble. The attraction had gotten big enough that many families sent younger children to us as well for the fun to be had. Those youngsters made us temper our scares to keep from getting too far overboard while still having fun. Waiting for the next batch of victims, my mind wandered again, back to a much less pleasant time. Tango to Victor. Tango to Victor. This is Dust Off Bravo. It's a trap. We are taking fire. I say again, we are taking fire. We need cover. Send the hogs back. We need. The voice of Chief Billings yelling in my headset abruptly quit as I heard the unmistakable sound of bullets hitting the aluminum shell of our Huey. I didn't have time to look at him, but I saw the grunt medic in front of me drop. He had just finished helping me load the last of the 4 litters of casualties we could carry in the UA one day, and I was clamping it into place on the rack. Beyond the medic, I could see men dressed in dark clothing armed with AK-47s emerging from the vegetation. They must have been waiting far back in the forest because the gunships had sprayed the area with massive amounts of gunfire and rockets preparatory to our landing. The landing zone had been declared clear before we set down, but Charlie had other plans. No matter what you might say about the black pajama-clad North Vietnamese army, they could learn, and their lessons were deadly. This unit had waited for the dust-off choppers to land before they attacked. Unarmed medevac helicopters are a lot easier to shoot down than the well-armed and prepared gunships. This whole situation had probably been planned far in advance of the long-range patrol getting ambushed. I could feel the floor of the helicopter pushing against my boots as the pilot chief cost man increased the cyclic and power to liftoff. I thought we were going to make it when a machine gun opened fire, and I saw my crew chief's head explode as his helmet flew off. I looked back at the patient in front of me and saw him take rounds from what sounded like a captured M60. Suddenly, there was an incredible amount of pain in my middle, and I blacked out. My last thought was Dan. I'm supposed to rotate out of this goddamn sewer of a country next month. I woke up for a few minutes at the MASH unit and found out that the pilot and 1 patient were the only others to make it out of the LZ. I was in a lot of pain, but they had given me something that kept it at a distance. Be calm, specialist. I'm going to give you something to put you to sleep now. Count backwards from, and I was gone again. Waking up the next time was a different experience entirely. It felt like I was swimming up from a great depth, trying to reach the surface. The more I strained to break free, the less it seemed I was getting there. There was something in my mouth and throat, and my eyes were stuck shut. There was pain, but it was still at a distance, and I could ignore it. The closer I got to the surface, the more sounds started nagging for my attention. The first was a constant beeping from nearby. I had spent 10 weeks of advanced individual training in a hospital, and I recognized the noise as belonging to a heart monitor. Oh yeah, I had been wounded and I was in a hospital. I wonder how bad it is. Would I be sent home to Indiana, or just back to the States to complete my enlistment? I kept getting closer to the surface, and the next thing I noticed was that it was cool. I knew that the MASH unit didn't have air conditioning. Was I in Donong? How long had I been out? I think he is starting to come around now. How about it? Specialist Whittaker, are you ready to join us? The voice was female and sounded nice. I doubt she'll look as good as she sounds. Not many of the women who enlisted were beauty contest winners. Not that it mattered to excited GIs, though. All they wanted was a shot of leg. Any hole would do. Come on. Alan, open those eyes and greet the world. Oh, Dan, I have to see what she looks like now. But I still couldn't get my eyes open. I tried to lift my hand to rub my eyes and maybe get them open, but found that I was tied down. What the hell? I started to panic and began pulling on the straps holding me to the bed. Take it easy, soldier. Here, maybe this will help. I felt a cool, damp cloth rub across my eyes. I tried again, and my eyelids slid up and light attacked my head. Oh hell, that hurt. I snapped my eyes shut again and groaned. When they were closed again, there was an image against my lids of a form, just to my right. I tried again, slowly, and soon I was able to make out the room I was in, and the person next to me. The light again caused pain, and I shut my eyes again, but not without seeing my surroundings a lot more clearly. I was most definitely in a hospital room, but not Da Nang. I have spent way too many days there, and all the walls were light pastel colors. The wall and ceiling I saw were bright blue and white respectively. My musings on the surroundings had taken my mind from thinking about the figure I had seen beside me. Now I had to consider it, and the closer I examined my memory of the figure, the greater my confusion. Was my mother right? Was there a hell and a devil? But if I was in hell, why had the pain been subdued? Why wasn't it being increased? I knew that I deserved to be in damnation. If such a place truly existed. In the course of the war I had killed people, and I had not saved patients that I should have. If I had been a better medic, more of my patients would have survived. What was fueling my dilemma was the figure beside my bed. The uniform was white, as I would expect to see on a nurse or corpsman in a military hospital. What was different was the face. I would consider the face to be attractive, even with the bright red lips and dark red eyeshadow. But the long fangs hanging over her lower lip and the black horns sticking out of her head would make me change my opinion. I think there were also high-pointed ears sticking out of the platinum blonde hair framing that astounding face. He's awake, doctor. I slowly opened my eyes again. The vision next to me had not changed, but approaching from behind her was a clown. It was a bushy, yellow-headed clown with a white face and big red nose. What was going on here? I tried to talk, but all I could do was grunt. There was something stuck in my throat. The clown was now beside my bed and spoke to me. You were in Frankfurt, son. You had some pretty severe injuries, so they flew you up here to us. You have been kept in a coma while we worked on you. My eyes must have been as big as saucers as I was looking back and forth between the devil woman and the clown. The clown was wearing a damn stethoscope. Oh, doctor. He doesn't understand the makeup. The devil woman looked over at the clown, then back at me. I'm sorry, Alan. What you must think. It's Halloween today, and we are made up for fun. We try to bring some joy to people like you who have been injured so badly. I can take it off if you wish. I shook my head no. The pain was starting to reinforce its presence, and I winced. We'll give you some more morphine in a minute, son, the clown said. But right now, we need to see how you are doing and remove the intubation. I nodded to show that I understood. The next 2 hours were pure agony. The tube was taken out of my throat, and I found out that breathing was not something to be taken for granted. My throat and mouth hurt badly, and my whole abdomen was covered with bandages. I found out some of what had been done after I left Vietnam while a whole crew of nurses worked on me. It seems that the NBA bullets had taken out my stomach and a few feet of my intestines. From the discussions going on around me, I ascertained that eating was going to be an experience for me from now on. My system was going to require huge amounts of help in order to process food. The rest of the day and into the evening, I spent talking to everyone who would listen to me. Most of the courtsmen, nurses, and doctors at the hospital were dressed in some form of costume for Halloween. I enjoyed looking at them, most especially my own little devil woman. Someone brought around candy, but I was told that I couldn't have any. What a cruel way to celebrate Halloween. Jennifer's scream brought me back to the present. The group of teens she had startled jumped past my hiding spot. I raised my arms and shuffled forward. The teens were facing away from me, looking at Jennifer. When she had lifted the lid of the coffin, a dim red light had come on and highlighted her makeup. The bright red lips, fangs, and blonde hair were the same as my little devil in Germany, but Jennifer was supposed to be a vampire and didn't have the horns. She was still lovely, but there was one little girl with this group of kids that was looking at my girlfriend and screaming her head off. The little one turned from Robin and then saw me. Her screams went hypersonic, and she froze in place. The poor little thing ran out of breath and was starting to blubber in between the high-pitched chirps, which were all she could produce now. I ripped off the mask I was wearing and dropped to my knees in front of her. I gathered the scared little lamb. She really was dressed in a lamb costume. I assume her older sister was little Bo Peep into my arms and pulled her against me. I murmured in her ear as my hand softly rubbed up and down on her back. She a little one. It's all right. No one is going to hurt you. No matter what you think, this is not hell. I know because I've been there. I would love to say that the fun of the Halloween weekend and having sex with Jennifer changed everything, but in reality there was very little change at all. In fact, she started getting a little distant. I was still working Friday and Saturday nights, so I was unable to go to the games with her. She went with friends and didn't come into the shop all the time. She said that she was getting tired of pizza. We got invited to numerous parties, but the only ones we went to together were the ones I was invited to by my fellow workers. We never went to ones with her friends together. The other thing I noticed was that sometimes when I picked her up, she would be lifting my ring out from her clothes as she was exiting the dorm. Thanksgiving was shared between my folks and Laura's. Jennifer and I would travel to Ohio for Christmas, and Frank's mom really didn't care. She would go to parties with her friends and ignore Frank for the most part. She had been this way as long as I had known Frank. I only met her a few times. The four of us spent the morning with my parents, and Dad had me proud with pancake sandwiches, a stack of fresh-made pancakes with 2 over-easy eggs on top with bacon and whole hog sausage on the side. Laura and I had grits with this. Jennifer and Frank declined. Some people just don't like them for some reason, whereas I love good grits. I learned to like them in basic training. We all had a good time and then drove to Lebanon to spend the evening with Laura's parents. The feast they laid on was stupendous, but I missed a couple of Dad's specialties that I hadn't had in years, but maybe he would save some for me. They were going to Mom's sister's house, and Dad was making a green bean casserole and a carrot cake to take along. There was no curfew during the holidays, so Frank and Laura got to spend another night on the hideaway. Before we left for the Christmas holidays, Dad and I did a brake job on Jennifer's car, as well as putting on snow tires and winterizing her radiator with antifreeze. The car was now about as good as it could be. Jennifer wasn't worried about driving it anymore, and even better, I wasn't worried about riding in it. That was good, because we were taking her car to Ohio. Her dad had gotten her a new car, and she needed to trade. My opinion was that, unless it was a brand new car, she would be better off with the Falcon. I didn't have to pull in a lot of favors to get the time off from work. The reduced number of students of the school meant that not as many workers were needed, and they could get those from the kids who weren't going anywhere. I bought Jennifer a tennis bracelet and a couple of albums for Christmas. I had them in my suitcase for the trip. We agreed to do presents and such with everyone in Indiana after we got back in January. Driving to Dayton is about as easy as it gets. You go south to Indianapolis and turn left. The arrival at her home gave me a whole new look into Jennifer's personality. I was introduced to her parents and immediately saw the dynamics of the household. Her father was a big, fast-talking blowhard. Tony Douglas sold appliances and furniture. He had a store in one of the malls and was doing pretty good. Mrs. Douglas, I was never given her first name, on the other hand, was a mouse. She did not meet my eyes or speak above a whisper. She was not even at the door when we arrived. Tony called her in from the kitchen to say hello. Her handshake was brief, as was her hug with Jennifer. She then quickly returned to the kitchen. "Hey, Binky, do you want to see what Daddy got you to replace that old car? It's out in the garage and all ready for you. Sarah says that she has a job and will need transportation, so I'm going to let her have your old car. Here's the keys, baby. Go ahead and check it out." Binky, Jennifer jumped up and gave her dad a hug, and then she raced out to the garage to see what he had gotten for her. Just like a little princess at her birthday party, her dad probably didn't know that the Falcon was better than it had been. So that told me something about what he thought of Sarah, what the pecking order was in this household. In most families, the older daughter would get the new stuff, and the younger would get the hand-me-downs. The fact that Jennifer didn't say anything meant that this was normal for them. I followed her out to the garage and saw the car as soon as she did. I thought Daddy had done her bad with the Falcon, but this time he had gone to a new low, a Maverick, a 1971 orange Maverick with plaid seats. It was the ugliest car I had ever seen. Jennifer, of course, was ecstatic. She jumped up and down, squealed, and clapped her hands. "Oh, Daddy, I love it. Sarah can have that old junker. I love this one. Thank you, Daddy. Thank you." Jennifer jumped up and hugged her daddy again. Then she ran around to the driver's door and got in. "Open the door, Alan. Let's take a drive to check this out." I opened the garage door and then had to move the Falcon out of the way to let her out. I parked the Falcon in front of the house and got out. Jennifer pulled up next to me, just as another car pulled up in front of the house. A tall girl got out and waved to the girl driving it. She stepped over to the Maverick and leaned into Jennifer. "Hello, sis. I see Dad couldn't wait to show you your new toy." She looked up at me. "This must be Alan." "Hi there. I'm Sarah, Jennifer's half-sister. Jennifer told us that you would be with her when she came home." Wow, what a family. Tony Douglas, balding overweight salesman. Mrs. Douglas, a small and reserved woman. Jennifer Douglas, a petite and energetic cheerleader adored by her father. And Sarah Douglas, a tall and striking young woman. Sarah's stature suggested her father was a very large man. Sarah was still talking as she approached me where I was standing by the Falcon. "So this is the junk heap I am supposed to drive." "Huh." She looked into the car. "Well, maybe one of the guys from school can work on it enough to get me around." I had to speak up then. "You don't need to do that. My dad and I already worked on it. This car is good for another 40 or 50,000 miles. Just then, Jennifer honked the horn. "Come on, Alan. You can talk to her when we get back." "Sorry. I guess I had better go with her before she makes a scene. It was nice to meet you, Sarah. I hope that we get to talk more while I am here." Jennifer honked the horn again. "Nice to meet you too, Alan. You're right. You better go. She is just getting started." "No, she is done." I leaned over to be at eye level with Jennifer. "Cut it out. Princess, Daddy spank." Her only response was a totally shocked expression. And as I rounded the car to get in, I saw the same expression on her sister's face. I got in the car and Jennifer drove away while I was buckling my seatbelt. "Would you really spank me? I've never been spanked before. Daddy would never do that to me." "He probably should have." "What about your mom? Didn't she ever spank you?" "Mama takes care of the house and Daddy. She doesn't do anything else very well. Mama is a little slow." "That's a hell of a way to think of your mother." Jennifer drove me around town and talked to me about all the stuff she used to do here. I saw the high school, the football field, the shopping mall her dad's store was in, the shopping center she liked to hang out at with her friends, the shoe store with the best fashions in town, and numerous other places which held no interest for me at all. We passed a sign for the Air Force Museum at Wright-Patterson Field, and I discovered that Jennifer had lived here all her life and had never gone to the museum. I simply could not imagine that. Having such a fantastic resource available and not using it, I was hoping to get a chance to go to it while I was here. Jennifer finally headed home. The Falcon was gone when we got there. I guess Sarah had some place to go. We went into the house and Jennifer thanked her father again for the new car. He asked me my opinion, and I told him that I would go out to the garage later and check it out. I wanted to hold my approval until I had a chance to examine the inner workings a little better. Tony just gave me a baffled look. "Do you know anything about cars? I just send them to the dealer and let him take care of them." Yeah, that's probably why that Falcon was 30,000 miles overdue for service. The dealer charged you for work he never did. He knew that you wouldn't be able to tell the difference. You need to change dealers and then get another mechanic to check on any work done. You have to be able to trust your mechanic to do what you pay him for. Dad and I do all our own routine maintenance, and one of my cousins runs a garage. Wow, you have it all under control, don't you? Well, I won't worry about my baby's car then with you looking after it. The smile Tony gave me never reached his eyes. I don't think this man trusts me. Well, that was good because I wouldn't trust him with my dog, and he died 10 years ago. Maybe he was just upset because I was boinking his little girl, the one he cared about. We sat down to dinner, and Mrs. Douglas appeared again with the food. Her only comments were to ask what we would like to drink. Tony kept up a running commentary during the meal about the local happenings with Jennifer, while pointedly ignoring me. Mrs. Douglas never returned, and when I asked about it, I was told that she ate in the kitchen. Halfway through the meal, Sarah came in and went directly into the kitchen. She came out in a few minutes with a filled plate and a drink. She sat across from me and listened to the discussion between her sister and father. Every once in a while, she would interject a comment about one of the people Tony was talking about. He and Jennifer seemed to not hear her. They never said anything back to her. This was surreal. We were supposed to stay here for a full week and head back on the 30th to avoid the holiday traffic. I wasn't sure that I could survive that long. I might have to call Frank to come pick me up. I looked up at Sarah, and she leaned back in her seat and laughed. "Welcome to Perta, Alan. When these two are in a room, no one else is present. Would you like to talk to me for a bit? We can go into the living room and give them some privacy. Sarah, you leave my boyfriend alone. He doesn't want anything to do with someone like you. Hold it right there, princess. I will be the judge of who I talk to, not you. Your sister seems to be very nice and intelligent. At least she is not ignoring others at the table. Common courtesy would have you or your father address comments to us once in a while. Now I need to get my pills and such for my coat." I got up to go into the hall for my coat. I had a pint of blackberry brandy to take my pills with. "Maybe you had better move to the living room, boy. I'll not have you instructing me on courtesy in my own home. Go along with him, Sarah. You have already shown your contempt of us." Tony stood up and stated this firmly. Jennifer had a kind of smug expression on her face and said nothing. The sheer force of will required to keep from smashing the big boar at the end of the table into next week was astounding. If Sarah hadn't taken my arm and guided me out of the room, I probably would have ended any chance of a pleasant holiday right then. After a stop in the hallway closet, Sarah sat me down on the couch and then sat beside me. "Take it easy, Alan. They are always like this, and getting mad does nothing. You just have to get used to it because they won't change. Get used to it, my foot. If they go on like that, I'm likely to lose it, and that won't be very nice. Just take it easy, Alan. You have been good for Jennifer, but at heart, she is still Daddy's little darling. She can do no wrong in his eyes, and he can do no wrong in hers. I would say that coming here was a mistake for you, except that you really needed to see this. You may have control over her in Indiana, but when she's here, Jennifer belongs to Tony. I have had to put up with it my whole life, and finally I have a chance to get away. This broke through my darkening mood for a moment. And what are you going to do? I opened the brandy and started taking pills. I graduated last week, and my teacher found me a job. I was at the interview today. I took the job, and I am due there to start on the 3rd. The odd part is that the job is in Lafayette at the 84 Lumber Company. They want me to work with contractors and customers as an interior designer to get the best use of their products. I was going to have some friends work on that falcon Tony gave me, and then followed Jennifer when she went back. The company is going to help me find a place to live. Jennifer said something about this. She pointed at the brandy. Do you have to do this with every meal? I was calmed down quite a bit by then. Yeah, but only about half a pint for breakfast and lunch. I need a full pint for supper. It can be a bother sometimes, but you get used to it. About then, the doorbell rang. A few minutes later, I heard Mrs. Douglas's voice murmuring by the front door. A much louder male voice said, "Where is she?" Bill told me she was running around town today with some guy. Is he here too? I started to get up, but Sarah grabbed my sleeve and held me back. Wait a minute, Alan. You need to hear this. That is Brent Baldwin, Jennifer's boyfriend all through school. He was the captain of the football team, and still thinks that he is hot shit. He can't get on the state team because he isn't nearly as good as he thinks he is. He is almost as big a blowhard as Tony. And that is saying something. I was looking at her when Brent spoke again. Jennifer, baby. Who was this guy you were running around town with? There was a pause in Jennifer's voice murmuring quietly. You're what? More murmuring from Jennifer. No, I will not be quiet. When we got together after that football game, I knew we were still a couple. Where is this chicken? I'm going to show him whose woman you are. That was all I needed to hear. I shook my head at Sarah as she tried to keep me from going out of the room. I stepped to the door and heard Jennifer saying as I did, No, Brent, you and the other guys at the games didn't mean anything. I like Alan and I want to keep him for a while yet. The next time you were in West Lafayette, we can get together again. I was standing still in the doorway. I felt something at my side and looked to see Sarah standing there looking sad and shaking her head. I'm sorry, Ellen, but she has always been like that. Even when she was going with Brent, she would go out on him for kicks. Self-denial just isn't in her vocabulary. Now it came crashing in on me. Why Jennifer had been staying away from parties where the people knew her. She was afraid that she would run into someone who would give away her actions. I would say that my heart was broken, but I just felt numb. I stepped further into the room until I was within view of Brent. His eyes got wide, and he moved around Jennifer to confront me. There you are, you a hole. Get the hell out of here with my woman. You can never have a hot chick like her. No problem, buddy. You're welcome to her. I turned to Sarah. Could you take me somewhere that I can wait for someone to come get me? You were right. Coming here was a mistake, especially leaving my car at home. Jennifer spoke up then. No, Ellen. It's not what it seems. Frank, leave. I heard enough, Jennifer, when I said exclusive. That is what I meant. Frank tried to get in touch with me when you get back. I won't be forgiving. I told you why I didn't want to date you. And I was right. Goodbye, Jennifer. I'll give Laura your stuff. I was about to ask Sarah if we could go. Good thing I hadn't even unloaded the Falcon. When Brent decided that he was going to teach me a lesson, I felt something crash into my face, rocking me backward. Then the lights dimmed, and I was going back into my nightmare. I could hear the do-do-ap, do-do-ap, do-do-ap of the chopper blades and the rounds hitting the ship. I yelled at Anders, "Get us out of here, Chief." I slapped my left armpit to get my .45. There was an Arvin coward trying to hitch a ride, and I had to get him off, or we would be overloaded and couldn't lift. Damn. No pistol. Captain Harper was going to ream my butt for losing my weapon. No help for it. I'd have to beat the dumb idiot off. He was too close to really hit, so an elbow into the face moved him back enough that I could kick him in the chest. Hard. I dimly remember seeing Brent crashing into the door before I passed out. The next thing I knew, I was sitting on the couch, and I could feel someone on the couch beside me. There were voices murmuring in the background. And the more I came to my senses, the less indistinct the voices became. The boy has a broken nose, 3 missing teeth, and 2 broken ribs. I want to press charges. That was the voice of Tony, the a-hole. A new voice broken then. One I was not familiar with. Brent threw the first punch. All this man was doing was defending himself. I can take him in if you want me to. But I'll take Brent in too and let the judge sort it out. Mr. Whittaker, I'd says that he is a disabled vet, and the judge is not going to be happy with someone who attacked a vet. He lost his boy over there. Well, just get him out of here. He is no longer welcome in my home. I'm getting my daughter transferred to state, so she won't be around him again. I opened my eyes and saw a policeman talking to Tony. Well, hello, son. Are you with us again? Yeah, I guess so. What the hell happened? I looked to see who was on the couch beside me, and saw Sarah looking at me with compassion. Not pity, compassion. The best I can understand from Miss Sarah, Mr. Football Hero here, pointing at Brent near the door, tried to deck you with a punch to the head. You then proceeded to put an elbow into his face and kick him across the room. You also yelled something about a chief getting you out of there, and then you collapsed. Care to tell me what you remember? Well, the chief was probably Chief Warrant Officer Anders. He flew most of our hairy missions. The knock to my head must have stunned me. I don't remember anything but wanting to get away from here. I looked back over to Sarah. What happened to Jennifer? Is she okay? She pissed her pants and took off to her room, Alan. You literally scared the pee out of her. Do you remember what she said? And do you want your ring back? Is she afraid of me? Oh yeah, your demonstration did a pretty good job of that. And what about you? Are you scared of me? No, she leaned in and whispered in my ear. I'm excited. Oh boy. Tony had to speak up then. You leave Jennifer the hell alone. My daughter will not be mixed up with a crazy hooligan any longer. If you so much as speak to her, I will have you arrested for assault. He turned to the policeman. Now get him out of here, Eric. I need to make sure Jennifer is okay. All right, Tony. We'll go as soon as I am sure that Mr. Whittaker is all right. How about it, son? Are you feeling good enough to travel? I was totally awake by then. Yeah, I'm okay now. My head hurts like hell, and so does my elbow, but I felt worse. Did I hear something about Brent having a couple of broken ribs? Yes, you did. You broke 2 ribs, his nose, and knocked out 3 teeth. I think his teeth cut your elbow, and you are going to have a black eye where he sucker punched you. Is what Tony said about you drinking a pint of booze before this happened correct? Yes, it is here. This should explain it. I reached into my wallet and pulled out the paper they gave me at VA about having to have alcohol with meals and about not giving me a breathalyzer test because it would be invalid. Boy, the next session with my shrink at VA is going to be a doozy. He said that I might expect something like this, but I don't think he realized what might happen. No, I doubt that he did. He handed the paper back to me. So you aren't drunk? Not a bit. I need to get my bags out of Jennifer's old car. I can call my dad from the police station to come pick me up. He won't mind, but it will take a while. Could I stay in a motel till he gets here? I'm not under arrest, am I? No, you are not. You can press charges against Brent if you would like to. He attacked you. That's okay. If he didn't learn anything from my reaction, then jail time won't help. I would just like to get out of here. And yes, Sarah, I would like my ring back if you can get it for me. Sarah smiled and reached behind her back, bringing my ring on the chain out. I thought you might want it. She threw it down the stairs as she was running up them. That is a nice ring. A girl should feel lucky to have it. She then turned her attention to her stepbrother. Hey, Tony, I have a deal for you. I was going to follow Jennifer to Indiana to get to my new job when she left, but now I have a better idea. If you sign over the Falcon to me and let me get some of my stuff out of the room, I promise never to bother you again. I'm sure that the nice policeman will witness the title for you. What do you say, Tony? You won't come bothering me for money or try to turn your mother against me again. No more contact at all. I'll say goodbye to Mom. And that is the last any of you will see of me. I have tried and tried to get Mom to leave you, and she won't do it. So I give up, deal. I'll get the title while you get your stuff. Will you witness this, Eric? Yes, I've got some time. I'll help you carry your stuff. Miss, will it all fit in your car? Sure. Tony here wouldn't let me have a TV, and I already have what I want to take packed for next week. We should be able to do it in one trip. She turned to me again. Want a ride to Lafayette, Ellen? This way I can have a mechanic with me, and you don't have to bother your dad. We both win. That sounds good to me, Sarah. Let's get your bags. And that is the way it happened. 30 minutes later, we left that house for the last time. I never saw Jennifer again. Sarah and I stayed in a motel that night, and I learned that she was a much better lover than her half-sister. She was not kidding when she said that the violence had made her excited, but apparently a lot of things about me did that. After we got to Lafayette, she stayed with me while settling into her new job. But we knew that there was no spark between us except for passion, and when she found a place of her own, we separated as friends. Frank and Laura lasted till Memorial Day. And then Frank finally moved on. I didn't date her, but dating Jennifer had improved my standing among the girls in the school, so that I had no trouble getting dates when I wanted them. I stayed away from the prom queens and had a good time. Thanks to everyone who took the time to listen to today's stories. If you enjoyed it, please consider liking and subscribing if you haven't already. Feel free to share your thoughts on the events in the comments below. Take care.